utters the single syllable Om, which is Brahman, God remembering me as he departs, giving up his body, he goes to the highest goal. The whole process that's described in the previous verse and this verse, so in the 12th and 13th verses, is restraining the gates of the body in the form of the senses, confining the mind in the heart, making the life force fixed in the head, and then uttering the single syllable Om, which is Brahman, while remembering the Supreme Soul as one departs, giving up his body. Shri Krishna says that one who does this attains to him with a capital H. It is very important what we do at the time of death. One must chant the Om, Omkar. Om is a single syllable, it says here clearly, that is form of Brahman. We must think about the Om in detail. For Brahman, let us first understand what Om mathematically is. Our Upanishads, and in particular the Katha Upanishad, use two words to describe Brahman. The first is Ano Rarayan, which means the subtlest of the subtle, and then Mahato Mahiyan, greater than the greatest. So Brahman is the subtlest of the subtle and greater than the greatest. Therefore, if we try to look at it mathematically, then what is Ano Rarayan? What is the smallest of the subtle? Anyone know? What's the smallest of the small? It's 0. 0 is the smallest of the small. And what is Mahato Mahiyan, which is greater than the greatest? In the language of mathematics, you can't describe it using words, and therefore there's a composition that we call infinity. So the subtlest of the subtle is 0, and the greatest than the greatest is called infinity. Those who study science will know that infinity is like the word alpha in Greek. 0 plus infinity is equal to Brahman. 0 is empty, 0 that is emptiness plus infinity that is eternity is equal to Brahman. Metaphysically and spiritually, what is emptiness? It is the emptying of the feeling of me and mine. It is when the ego becomes empty. Metaphysically, what is infinity? The feeling of the soul is infinity. Therefore, the emptying of the feeling of the ego and the infinity of the feeling of the soul is equal to getting a vision of Brahman and the soul. When the feeling of me becomes empty, then what happens? Remember when I spoke about this a few classes ago while describing Pratyekatma, that the Pratyekatma has been separated from the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul, and the ego has touched the Pratyekatma. Then the Pratyekatma becomes the Jivatma, the individual soul, in the physical body. The Jivatma, the individual soul, became bigger and smaller as a result of this ego and that is why the Jivatma, the individual soul, there's a hand up here, created worries and bondages for himself throughout many births. Now when he begins the journey towards emptiness, then slowly and slowly, at the time of death, the physical body that was made up of the ingredients of the 5 knowledge senses, the 5 senses of action, the 5 breaths, the mind and intellect goes away. And what remains with the Pratyekatma? It's the ego. The ego then also goes away. The emptiness of the feeling of the ego is the reverse process of what we spoke about when discussing the self with a capital S. The Pratyekatma was separated from the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul. The ego touched the Pratyekatma, the physical body sat on the ego, and the Jivatma, the individual soul, began. When the Jivatma, the individual soul, dies and is free from the physical body, then what remains? Anyone know? The Pratyekatma and the ego remain, but when this ego also goes, then the emptiness of the feeling of the ego leads to a pure Pratyekatma. If this Pratyekatma is there in that state, then it's possible that the ego can once again come and hang on to the Pratyekatma, and once again another physical body can manifest. Then another birth arises. But this Pratyekatma is going towards liberation, and therefore it is not enough if only the ego leaves, and it is not enough that one gets the emptiness of the feeling of the ego. Together with this, the eternity of the feeling of the soul should lead to the Pratyekatma to remember that its smallness, remember what I spoke about earlier, this smallness makes effort in a direction of development and is always going in a direction of development, makes the Pratyekatma understand the eternal nature of the soul, that is, I am the Pratyekatma and I am the Supreme Soul. And the Pratyekatma attains that which is eternal. When these two combine, then one gets a vision of Brahman. Therefore, the emptiness of the feeling of me plus the eternal feeling of the soul is equal to Brahman. I showed earlier in this verse while I write about Pratyekatma how one goes from A to B, but now one is going back from B to A. We saw the activity of how the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul, becomes the Jivatma, the individual soul, but now we will see the activity of how the Jivatma, the individual soul, once again becomes the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul. The emptying of the feeling of the ego plus the eternity of feeling of soul is equal to Brahman. The single syllable of Brahman, it says in verse 13, is Om. Such a person has an experience of the Om. The moment, at that moment, and that experience is Om. What is the use of language? Anyone know what's the use of language? What's the goal of language? It's to make finite that which is infinite. The majority of languages fail in such efforts. They make efforts, but it's unsuccessful. Then what do thinkers do? They saw that words are incomplete, and therefore they depended on symbols. The Omkar is such a symbol that keeps as finite the infinite experience, the infinite experience of visioning Brahman. Om is a symbol of the formless Brahman, Nirgun Nirakar, formless Brahman with qualities. Om is the omniscient form of the Supreme Truth, not limited by the three different phases of time. Om never changes, no matter what time it is, and whether it is past, present, or future. Thinkers began playing with the form of Om. We know what the form of Om is. Everyone here knows what it looks like, the Om. One man, he may have had a nice reason of equal respect for all religions, made efforts by keeping the left part of the Om and combining it with the cross of Christianity and the moon of Islam. He then spoke out saying that this is a symbol of oneness of Hinduism, Christianity and Islam. He had to suffer very bad consequences. He became a complete nobody after that. The reason for this is that what he did was a nuisance. You cannot play with Omkar. It is not like a common picture where you can make some changes in the way a cartoonist draws a cartoon. You cannot change it. No type of change is possible. I'm talking about from a material place where even the representation of Om cannot be possibly changed. No changes can take place of the forms, impressions and effectivity of the Om. Om is as effective today as it was thousands of years ago, and no matter what time comes after this, the power and the impression and effectivity of Om will remain the same as is, and this is Om. Words have two forms. The first is a word in the form of a vibration, and the second is a word in the form of a description. Words in the form of vibration can be chanted by anyone. Our whole language is in the form of vibration or phonetics. The second are words in the form of a description. We may chant these words, but in reality, it is not the chanting that's a true representation of the word. It is not the chanting that's the existence of the word, and it's not the chanting gives manifestation to the word. Om is such a word, is such a syllable. It is a word that can be described. When we chant the Om, then it is fine, but we do not have to believe that this is chanting is of the Om. This is because Om is not a word to be said, but Om is a vibration to be heard. I'll speak further about it. When we chant the Om, then it's for practice and study, but Om is a word in the form of a description, and that's why one needs to have the right to do this. If you chant Om in the wrong way, then it boomerangs. That is why great saints have done us a lot of grace. The pure Om is a concentrated acid that even if it touches the finger, then the finger will burn. Great saints diluted this acid and taught us to chant, there's a hand here, taught us to chant Hari Om. H-A-R-I-H-I Om. Hari Om. By chanting Hari Om, the Om becomes diluted. That if the person changes the content or makes a mistake in chanting the Om, then this is forgivable. Because if you just chant the Om, you can't make a mistake in the chanting. It has to be perfect. But if you want to avoid the effects of not chanting it properly, you say Hari before or Hari Om. Hari Hi Om. And you become forgiven. Om has no beginning, middle or end. If you even look at the symbol or figure of Om, then its beginning can be anywhere, it has no middle and has no end. Om is unique. If you look at any language in the world, then you cannot find the symbol. There is nothing outside the Om and there is nothing inside the Om. Nothing on the outside can affect the Om. For one who wishes to enter inside one's soul and one who wishes to leap inside himself or herself, this springboard, underline this word, the springboard for this is Om. It's very helpful to that person. This is for one who wishes to go inside oneself. Om is written in many ways. When people write as OM, then it is incorrect. OM is an incorrect spelling. It is actually AUM, Om. The 3.5 sounds of A, U and M, as well as the moon and a dot, combine to give Om. We understand the history of Om. We say that Om is the peak of Indianness. If you find this dry, then forgive me, because I can't say any jokes while describing this. There's going to be no kachalal in this. What is Om? We must understand the history of Om. The word Brav, which symbolizes Om, came first of all in the Taittiriya of the Krishna Yajur Ved, in the Shruti. What does Shruti mean? Anyone know? It's a scripture that you listen to rather than read. Shruti, literature. Keith is a well-known thinker who has done research on the Vedas in his age. Keith says that the final syllables of mantra is chanted as hotrus are prolongations. The mantras that we call chanted as Shantipat, opening prayers, during these discourses, or any other mantras come in this. There are different degrees of chanting of mantras by Brahmins during yagnas according to the roles they have been given. There are different types of Brahmins such as priests, hotrus, brahmas. Each and every Brahmin has a post. Out of these, the hotrus are Brahmins who give oblations. They chant the mantras while sitting next to the place of yagna, and they know how much equipment to use for oblation and how much oblations people have to give. The last syllable of the mantra that they are chanting are prolongations. If we take a simple mantra as an example, Bhadram karne Vishwaram Deva, Bhadram Ashena Akshaya Biyataha, Shitra Range Shut Nashut Stanuvihi Vyase Madeva Hitaya Yadaom. The last word that was said before Swaha is Yadayu, and we stop there. But what happened in ancient times was that when the mantra was about to finish and the chanting of the next mantra was about to begin, at that time the mantra that the Hotru spoke had the last syllable as a prolongation. This was Om. Slowly and slowly over time it became Om. Therefore the beginning of a mantra is with Om, and the end of a mantra is also with Om. Secondly, we should understand what Shruti scriptures are, because we Shruti all the time. The Vedas come first, then the Brahmin scriptures come, then the Aranyakas, and then the Upanishads. So you've got the Vedas, the Brahmin scriptures, the Aranyakas, and the Upanishads. The body of literature that includes all four of these is the Shruti literature. The Vedas have mantras chanted for various gods, such as Usha, dedicated to the sun, the Nadi Sukta, dedicated to the Sindhu river. You've got the Indra Sukta, dedicated to Indra, the king of the gods, Varun Sutra, dedicated to the god of wind, Prajapati Sutra, dedicated to the lord of witches, etc. These have mantras. Instructions of when to say these mantras, how to say these mantras, during which event, and how to perform yagnas come in the Brahmin scriptures. It is not Brahmin by type, but Brahmin scriptures. Then comes the Aranyakas. I'm saying this in short. When I talk about Upanishads, then I explain them in detail. The word Aranyakas tells us everything. Aranya means jungle, and therefore Aranyakas means those that were written in the jungles. These are of two types. The first is when yagnas are performed in the morning, and then yagnas are performed again in the evening. During the 45-minute period at lunchtime, the Brahmins take a rest from the yagna, or they eat fruits. That which was spoken during this period was preserved in the Aranyaka scriptures. It's very natural what they would be about. The second is when those who have become Vanaprasthi. Anyone know what that means? Vanaprasthi? It's the stage of a forest dweller in life after the age of 50, where they stay at the hermitage of rishis in jungles. The preachings that are given to them, or the discussions with the rishis, were preserved in the Aranyaka scriptures. These two things come in the Aranyakas, and in the end come the Upanishads, which is Vedanta. What does Vedanta mean? Anyone know? Easy. Veda Anta. The end of the Vedas. Anyone know what Upanishad means? It can be broken down in three words. Upa means near, Ni means with humility, and Shad means to take somewhere or to sit. So Upa, near, Ni means with humility in Sanskrit, and Shad means to take somewhere or sit. The knowledge that pupils, wisdom I should say, that pupils attain after having sat near a guru with humility, and a conversation between the guru and the pupils became the Upanishads. The Om is used in the Brahmin scriptures over and over again. I said earlier that Brahmin scriptures instruct us how to perform yagnas and show us the formula and the system for yagnas. They contain instructions on which mantras to say. Researchers say that the Om that comes up over and over again in the Brahmin scriptures through the Advaryu, responses to the chanting of mantras by the Hotrus, the Brahmins who give oblations. Advaryus chant mantras, the Hotrus perform the oblations, and then the other Advaryus give them a response. If I were to say in simple language, then instead of saying yes, the Advaryus would say Om. The chanting of this begins, and the reason for this was that through this, the atmosphere in a field in a place of yagna would become purified. In Christianity, there is Amen, and in Islam, there is Ameen. Both mean so be it. This Om is in this meaning. This is how it began. In the Itareya Brahmin, the Om was referred to as the sum of the Vedas and a mystic syllable of Brahman. This was as a symbol. After the Itareya Brahmin, the mysticism that we give rise to after the Om started from there. The syllable became so important that all the main religions that were created in the East had Omkar in them in one form or the other. In Vedic Dharma, there is Omkar, which you all know. Thereafter, Jainism began, and even then, there is the prayer, Om Namo Aryantaram, Om Namo Siddharam, Om Namo Aryanam. I bow down to Aryanta, I bow down to Siddha, I bow down to Acharya. There were some changes in other religions that sprang up from the popular Hindu Dharma that came from Vedic thoughts, such as accepting or not accepting the existence of the soul, accepting or not accepting rebirth. There are many differences of opinion, but on the matter of Om, whether it is Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, it does not make a difference because all of them accepted Om. Not only that, but the main religions of the West, such as Islam and Christianity, also accepted Om. Amen and Ameen are forms of Om. In Christianity, there is the word Omni. If you want to show the power of the Supreme Soul, or to show what the Supreme Soul is like, then they say omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. It is important to say Om, so omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. You get it? Yeah. So it says it's not important to say Om, but it's important to listen to Om. When a person on the path of spirituality reaches the peak, then the sound of Om manifests from within. When, for example, 5 different people listen to that sound, then the sound is one, but the listener interprets it in their own way. And there is some difference when they reproduce it. If a bird starts singing, then 3 people hear it. Then if one were to ask these 3 people what the bird said, then the first person may say kurekuk. The second person says kukuku. And the third person says kukre kukre. These 3 people do not say the same thing, and there is a little difference. Only one bird has said it, but 3 people have listened to it. When each person reproduces what they have heard, then there's a difference in this. In the same way, Om, Amen, Ameen, and Omni are different because of this reason. The relativity of a person comes into this. When Guruji was young, he remembers that whenever we used to go to the country on vacation, then it would be him and his older sister and an elder, for example, his grandmother. The train would start getting faster, and the sound that would come from the tracks would be heard by many different people in the carriages. Then Guruji would say that the train is making a certain sound, and he would remember a verse or a song. His grandmother would tell him, no, it's a bhajan, divine song that's being played. The track's making the same sound of drubbing, but we associated it with whatever is our minds. This is the experience of everyone. In our minds, we think that it's a song or a bhajan being played, or even a racket. In the same way, the sound from within is one, but the method of reproducing it is different. Om is so basic. In the Chandogya Upanishad, it is beautifully described about the Pranav mantra, which is Om, that before everything, Pranav, Om became manifest. When the Pranav, Om became manifest, then out of the 3 sounds of the Pranav, Om, there are actually 3.5 parts when you include the moon and the dot in the symbol, but there are 3 sounds. The 3 feet of Gayatri became manifest. That is why we give so much importance to Gayatri, and the 3 feet of Gayatri came from the Pranav, the Om. Whenever a reference to Gayatri mantra comes, then people always think about that it means for the mother goddess Gayatri. Of course we have this form, worship the form and we have faith in it, and I have no opposition to this, but it's not a mother goddess Gayatri, but the Gayatri meter of 24 letters, which is a quality of the 3-footed Gayatri. The mantra, known as the Gayatri mantra, is therefore 24 letters, and you can count them here. Om Bhur Bhuvasha Tasavituranayam Bhago Devasatimahi Diyo Yona Prachodhyat. Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha Tasavituranayam Bhago Devasatimahi Diyo Yona Prachodhyat. Meaning, we meditate on the Ishvaras, the Pratyaksha Narayan symbol, i.e. the sun's glory, who has created the universe, fit to be worshipped, who is the embodiment of wisdom and light, who is the remover of all sins and ignorance. May he, with a capital H, illuminate, in brackets enlighten, our entire universe's intellects. The Gayatri chant has 20 letters and 3 feet, and Vishwamitra Rishi was its visionary. He was a guru of Lord Ram, Vishwamitra Rishi. From the 3 feet of Gayatri came out the 3 Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, and the Sama Veda, which are called the Vedatraya. If you look at it from another way, then if the churning of the 3 Vedas were to take place, then the Gayatri Mantra would become manifest. And if the Gayatri Mantra were to be turned, and one were to get the essence of the Gayatri Mantra, then this would be the Omkar. That is why everything gets its support from the Omkar. That is why each and every mantra from the Vedas begins with the Omkar. The scriptures even go so far as to say that a mantra spoken without the Om does not give fruits. I repeat that. The scriptures themselves say that a mantra spoken without the Om does not give the fruits. It is closed because it will give the fruits. Om is a root vibration of the whole of existence. We have it in our mythology that Shivji made a sound from his 4 drums, and the first thing that became manifest before everything else was the vibration of Omkar. Thereafter, the 7 notes on the scale and the whole world was created. Om is a root sound in the whole of existence. Om is an unhurt sound. Whenever we make any sound, what happens is that there is a struggle. Whenever we say any word, then the tongue touches the roof of the mouth, lips touch each other, our teeth grind, or if we're clapping our hands, then our hands would meet. 2 things or the other are clashing or something like this is happening. The Omkar is such a sound from which there is no hurt, no 2 things clashing, and no struggle. Om is an unhurt sound, and it comes from the inside. When one chants the Omkar from the outside, then it's just practice, but when all words become quiet, and the clamour of words and thought stops, then one begins to hear the vibration of Om from the sky in one's heart. This is what one should listen to. One should experience the sound of Om from the inside. Just like you go inside a temple and say something, then the sound vibrates and echoes inside the dome. In the same way, when the heart becomes clean and pure, and a person on the path of spirituality is reaching near the peak, then he feels as if the vibration of the Omkar is echoing in the sky of his heart. It's a very unusual experience. You have to feel it to experience it. It cannot be described in words. The Omkar is a tapping for the apparatus of consciousness. It is a means of cleansing oneself on the inside. Those who know, who's heard of acupressure? Everyone familiar with acupressure? Those who know acupressure will understand, for example, if your head is hurting and we go to the acupressurist, then they would ask for us to give them our fingers. They take our fingers and start rubbing our fingers. A person who's trying this for the first time wonders what this person is doing because his head is hurting, they're rubbing his fingers. But those who know acupressure understand that some of the points of the head are on a finger, and by pressing on them, the hurting of the head stops. Just like there are the outside points of the body, in the same way, the apparatus of the nervous system inside also has some points. How can you give pressure to these points inside? It is done through the Omkar. When the proper chanting of the Omkar is done, then the breath that is taken inside goes to the right points and pushes them to create air pressure, and when the chanting of the Omkar happens again, then it becomes released again, and the Kundalini is released. Omkar is a tapping of the consciousness. The Omkar is a master formula, take off the unwrap of existence. Look how great the Omkar is. Why is this existence here? What is the secret of existence? Why have I come here on this earth? What is the secret to my life? What are my previous lives? And what will my future lives be like? If you want to unwrap all of these secrets, then there is only one master key, the Omkar. A person who advances on the path of penances, the Omkar, that such a person can attain anything. His perspective keeps opening. Just like one curtain after another moves out away, and one begins to know what is beyond those curtains, in the same way, by performing penances of Omkar, the curtains of Maya illusion, Ajnan ignorance, or more illusion that are there in a heart go far away, one after another, and such a person begins to have a very clear vision. If you go and stand near a wise person, and he is able to understand who you are, or what you are, you do not even have to say anything. The reason for this is that his penances of Om lead to everything being transparent to him and him being able to see through everything. You do not need to say anything, and you do not need to even tell anything. These are the effects of the penances of the Omkar. The whole existence opens up for him. Each and every one of us should have this key, that is the Omkar. Many of us will be chanting the Omkar. Does that many of us have a master key? No, it is not enough that one has a key. One must also know how to use the key, and one should know the padlock that the key is for. Only then will the key be useful. It is not enough if one has the key. A drunk man came back home at night and was dancing so much under intoxication. As a rule, every day his wife would padlock the door at midnight and go to sleep. The person tried to turn the key in the padlock. He He kept on turning the key would not work and the door would not open. His wife was awake, waiting inside the house. She looked outside the window from upstairs and saw that he was trying to turn the key on the padlock. She asked him what was wrong. He told her that he was turning the key but that nothing would open. She asked him if it was the right key, and she asked him which key he was using and whether he may have been using the shop key. She suggested that if he had lost the house keys, then she should throw him another pair of keys from the window. The person says no, because the key is same but the padlock is different. There's not enough that there is a key. One must know the padlock and should know how to turn the key properly. The Omkar is a master key to unwrap the disguise of existence. What is the meaning of Omkar? What is the definition of the Omkar? In the Mandukya Upanishad, the Omkar is defined as a symbol of the manifest and unmanifest Brahman. The Mandukya Upanishad is very short and only has 12 mantras. The definitions are very great. There are only 12 mantras. The Isha Upanishad has 18 mantras. The Mandukya Upanishad has 12 mantras, but it has only defined Om. What is the Omkar? It says that the Omkar is a symbol of the manifest and the unmanifest Brahman. The A represents the awake state, the U represents the dream state, and the M is the state of deep sleep. A is the awake state, U is the dream state, and M is the state of deep sleep. On the majority of occasions, we are in one or the other of these three states. Either we are awake, dreaming, or in sound sleep. These are the three states. The energy of the soul becomes manifest in these three states. It either becomes manifest or it gets used up. When we are awake, then the energy gets used up. When we are sleeping, then energy gets used up. Less battery may be used, but battery life is still being used, and some energy gets used up in the dream state. And the fourth state is that of the moon on the dot, which counts as half. The Mandukya Upanishad says that this is the Turi state, Turi Avasa. Do you know what Turi means? The meaning of Turi is the fourth state. One cannot tell what state it is, and that is why the scriptures said this is the fourth state and that is it. This state is the state of the fall of the soul and state of the purity of the soul. We can even say that this is a state where there is no state. It is not the awake state, it is not the dream state, and it is not the state of deep sleep. It is a state where there is no state, and therefore the Mandukya Upanishad says that one gets an experience of samadhi, being one with the Supreme Soul, is Turi Avastha, which is the fourth state. If we wish to understand it in simple language, then our mind is either in a conscious state, a subconscious state, or an unconscious state. Conscious state, subconscious state, or an unconscious state. The fourth state is that of Om consciousness. This is the state of samadhi, being one with the Supreme Soul. This is the Turi Avastha, the fourth state. The mind is neither in a conscious state, a subconscious state, nor an unconscious state, but in the Om, a conscious state. This is where such a person reaches. If we try to look at it from another meaning, then A is representative of the speech. If you look at it in Indian languages, then a consonant only finishes when an A comes into it. Those who have studied Gujarati will know that if there is no A, then the consonant cannot finish. We say that the Gujarati word sa koro ra koro, and then the letter A comes to make it kora. When you say makoro and then the letter A comes in, then it becomes makora and it can be chanted loud. The A makes all of these consonants complete. The A is a representative of the speech. The U is a representative of the mind. And the M is a representative of the life breath and a half part of the moon. And the dot is a representative of the soul. That is why it is said that Omkar Sarva Varanam Uttama Parikirtaha Omkarena Prareneva Sansar Adim Parishyati. The Omkar is the greatest of all descriptions. The Omkar is a boat through which one can float over the sea, that is the material world. The third meaning is that A is the earth, which is Bhu, U is the space, Bhuva, and M is Swarg, heaven, Swaha. Earth is A, U is space, and M is heaven. The Om is a symbol of the three worlds of earth, Bhu, space, Bhuva, and heaven, Swaha. When these three meet, then you go to the three worlds, but it's not enough that they are the three worlds. The moon and the dot that is above them is a symbol of the supreme truth that is the Lord of the three worlds. Therefore, the whole Omkar is there is a symbol of Brahman, who is the Lord of the three worlds. Kartuma Kartuma Mata Kartum Samatra Te Loko Nath. Therefore, Om is a representative of the three worlds of Om, earth, Bhu, space, Bhuvaha, and heaven, Swaha, as well as Brahman, who is the Lord of the three worlds. The moon and the dots are symbols of energy. The reason for this is that the world does not run just because the three worlds meet. Matter has come, but what about spirit? That comes from the Lord of the three worlds. If I were to take a simple example, then when hydrogen and oxygen meet, then you get water. But if you just take hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms and bring them together, then will you get water straight away? No, because you need a catalyst in the form of electricity, and only then will water be created. In this way, all of this matter has come. What is the energy? This is the Supreme Soul. This is the catalyst. Shri Krishna has said in the Gita, May adhyashena prakrutihi. My presence is just enough to create nature. When the sun rises, then all the flowers in the garden begin blooming. The sun does not go and open each and every flower. The sun does not go to every lotus and open each petal. But when the sun rises, then the presence of the sun is just enough to make the lotus bloom. In the same way, the presence of the Supreme Soul is enough to make the world run. A represents the original and first. It is a symbol of Brahma. U means transcendent, that joins with the original and the end. This is the medium state and means between the two states. Spiritualists call this the maintenance state. It's a symbol of Vishnu. M is representative of destruction and end state. It is a symbol of Shiva. Therefore, Om represents Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. Om represents creation, maintenance and destruction. What do the moon and the dot represent here? That these three states are not different, but that they are one. They are the one supreme truth and the one truth of Brahman. The moon represents non-duality and the dot represents purity of the soul with this. There are not many devotees of Brahma, but there are a lot of arguments between the devotees of Vishnu and the devotees of Shiva. The devotees of Vishnu do not take Shiva's name and the devotees of Shiva do not take the name of Vishnu. The Omkar shows us that all of these people are wrong because this energy is all one and that they are not different. A represents, another interpretation, A represents the mode of goodness, sattva. U represents the mode of passion, rajas. And the M represents the mode of dullness, tamas. The dot and the moon represents the state beyond these three modes of nature. We will speak about this in the 14th chapter. It is said in the Yoga Shastra that A means bodily peace, U means mental peace, and M means intellectual peace. A means bodily peace, U means mental peace, and M means intellectual peace. The moon and the crescent represent peace of the soul. Penances of Om give peace to the body, the mind and intellect, and then peace of soul comes by itself. It's worth experimenting. When I showed the practice of Dhyan in the 6th chapter, then I said this and Guru also said this. If while chanting the Om, you wish to get peace to the body, then you should prolong the chanting of A. So it is Om. If you want peace of mind, then you should prolong the chanting of the U so that it is Om. If you want intellectual and spiritual peace, then you should prolong the chanting of the M so that it is Om. Whatever type of peace you want the most, then you should prolong that particular sound. These three ways are shown in the Yoga Shastra. The root meaning of the word Om is Avati iti Om. Avati means to protect. We say in the Shanti, the opening prayers before a dharmic discourse, that Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Protect me, protect the Guru. Avati iti Om means that Om is that which protects us and which looks after us. There are many meanings of the stem Ava. All of these meanings apply to Om. I'm going to give all 23 of these meanings in short, okay? List one by one. First, Rakshan, to protect. 2. Gati, motion. 3. Kanti, beauty. 4. Priti, delight. 5. Trupti, fulfillment. 6. Samadhan, contentment. 7. Santosh, satisfaction. 8. Avagam, which means knowing and attaining wisdom. Therefore the Omkar is a symbol of wisdom, from which word agam came, which means profound. Then 9. Pravesh, to enter and to penetrate. 10. Shravan, to listen and to attain competence. And that is why I said that one does not have to chant the Om, but one should listen to Om, because you can hear the Om from within. 11. Samarthya, to attain competence and to obtain a right to become a Swami, which is one who is a master or an owner. 12. Samarth, power. Those who perform penance and strength. Those who perform penances of Om become strong and competent. A person who performs penances of Om can never be weak and hurt. 13. Archana, to ask, but to ask with splendor and radiance and not through powerlessness and helplessness. 14. Kriya, to perform actions. 15. Icha, to wish. 16. Ditti, to glow with light. 17. Rapt, to attain. 18. Alingan, to embrace. The Lord gives gifts to the devotee with much love. 19. Adan, importance. 20. Dhan, to accept. 21. Bhav, to be in existence of Om and be in existence of being. 22. Vruddhi, growth. And 23. Dahan, to combust. All of these meanings are in the Omkar. The first mantra in Isha Upanishad is Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kinchi Jagatam Jagat, which means Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. What does it mean? Isha Sarvam, Isha Vasya has many meanings, and one of these meanings is whatever there is in the whole world is pervaded by Isha, the Supreme Soul, or Swami, which means one who is a master or an owner. You'll only get bliss if you live in this world as the owner, and there's no bliss in living like a slave. Who gets bliss in this world? One who is an owner. If one becomes a slave to senses, then there is no fun in the world. At the beginning he may get some pleasure, but if one becomes a master of his senses, then for such a one this world is very beautiful. If you look at it in any meaning, if you're a master, then you can enjoy, a slave cannot enjoy. If there is a nice sofa set in a house, then you would only enjoy it if you are the owner, and you think, what a nice sofa set. Can a servant in your house enjoy that? No, because this person has to clean every day and take the dust out of it. Therefore he cannot enjoy it. You can enjoy the nice workmanship and design that has been done because you are the owner. Can a servant enjoy it? The servant will think that he has to take dust off it every day. The poor person is sitting there with a brush cleaning it. A slave cannot enjoy it. To take this world, if this world is giving you miseries, this world is giving you thirst, then go inside and think whether you are living as the owner or the slave of this world. If you are living as a slave, then this world will not look nice to you. Live as the owner of this world. Live as the owner of your senses and as the owner of yourself. Only then will the world be beautiful. The Omkar makes you attain strength. When one gets strength, then Nirbhaita, fearlessness, comes as well. Anyone heard of the king Shivaji? Shivaji, yeah? Very famous king of Maharashtra in medieval times in India. King Shivaji's guru was called Samartha Swami Ramdas. Anyone heard of it? Samartha Swami Ramdas. He put this adjective, Samartha, in front of his name, Swami Ramdas, and I like it very much. It is not just Swami Ramdas, but Samartha Swami Ramdas. How beautiful is this? Samartha means powerful. Powerful Swami Ramdas, Samartha Swami Ramdas. He had a very famous saying that Samartha Chiya Seva Kavare Pahe Asavare Bhumanari Kore Ahe, meaning, I am the servant of God, of the mighty, who is there even to look at me with a bad eye? I repeat that. Samartha Chiya Seva Kare Pahe Asavare Bhumanari Kore Ahe. I am a servant of the God, the mighty, who is there even to look at me with the wrong eye? There may be somebody behind, for example, when an elephant is walking and dogs are barking, but this is different. Who is there to stand in front of me and give me the wrong eye? Samartha Chiya Sevakare Vakre Pahe Asave Bumandi Kore Ahe, meaning, I am a servant of God, of the mighty, who is there even to look at me with the wrong eye? How did he himself become strong? Samartha Chiya Sevakare, I became a servant of God mighty, and that is why I became strong and powerful. Let us understand something else. If you want to become an owner of yourself, then you have to be the servant of a master. Whose servant are you? The greater the master, the greater the servant. Whenever we go to a marriage ceremony or another ceremony in India, then we all leave the car, but the conversations of the drivers are worth listening to. The status of the driver is determined by the person he drives the car for. A driver is a driver, but one driver says, I'm a driver of a big businessman. By being the driver of the big businessman, all he does is drive the car and open the door to the big businessman, but he gets a status by being the driver of a big businessman and reserves the best parking spaces and tells other drivers to go elsewhere. Here, Samartha Chiya Sevakaya. I am a servant, but I am the servant of God, the mighty, and that is why I am strong. The whole journey of spirituality is Om. What type of journey the soul that Brahman has? In the development of science in the West, scientists have held on to matter, and they went deep into matter, and they went to so much subtlety that they kept breaking down matter into smaller and smaller pieces. They broke down into even more pieces, then they got to molecules. Then they broke the molecule even more into atom. They broke down an atom even more and found what? Electrons, protons, and neutrons. They brought them even more, and what happened? They found energy and they found electricity. That is where science in the West reached. The rishis of the East started a different journey. They did not hold on to matter, but they held on to energy and consciousness inside human beings. They went deeper inside the energy in human beings. When they researched further into that energy, then the rishis went and stood on words. Where does this energy come from? Energy is in words. If a person is 4.5 feet tall, then what if he has effective words? Napoleon was very small, yet he shook the whole world because of words. Energy is in words. The wise people in the East and the rishis of the East say that words are the root of everything. That is why we say, Shabdam Brahman. Words are Brahman. And the rishis found that there is energy in words. The more that science developed, then they found out that words and energy are not separate, they are one. They are sound energy. The word sound itself is an energy. A sound can come that can tear your ears. This is an energy. Science accepts that vibrations are energy. Where did this energy come from? It came from the root truth that is Brahman and the soul. From that came space. People accept this until then. Then two splits take place in Indian thought. And if you look at these two splits in one way, then they have these two types. Ishvarvadi, those who believe that God is there, and Nirishvarvadi, those who do not believe that God is there. If I were to Sanskritize them, then I would say that they are Saishvarvadi and Nirishvarvadi respectively. What the people who are in the split of Ishvarvadi, those who believe that God is there, said is that the sound became manifest from the ether. The sound is the Omkar that symbolically we say in mythology had come from the small drums of Shivji. The Omkar became manifest from this. From this sound, words, and if you break down words further, then notes, and if you break down vowels further, then you have consonants, then words came, and in the end we got mantras when all these different words gathered together. Mantras are weapons of sound, and they came from there. Out of these 5 gross elements, plants, which are earth, water, fire, wind, and ether, plants, animals, and humans, and all living things were created. Therefore, one journey is from Brahman to space, and to sound to words. It is a journey with the Omkar. On the other side, the 5 gross elements came from space, and out of the 5 gross elements, plants, animals, humans, and all living things were created. The words that come were forms of Brahman by name, and the word that was created on the other side is a form of Brahman by experience. That is why we say Nam Rup Jujva. The name and the appearance are 2 forms of Brahman. Brahman has 2 forms, one by name and one by appearance. A name is name, and an appearance is something you can actually see. In the end, Brahman is one when they go back to space. But the mantra is the form of Brahman in the name, and the world is the form of Brahman by appearance. If you look at anything, then it's at its root, then it has Brahman. If you just hold on to words, then it will not work, and if you just hold on to the world, then it will also not work. You should go to the root of them, and if you do so, then you will reach Brahman. I once read a very nice Pankti, 5-line poem once. Shabke piche kaha tu jayega kishore, shabka udgar pakar tu, shabka dhar chor. Where will you go running after words? Hold on to the source of words and let go of the rope that are words. Hold on to the source of the words. Where are the words coming from? Words are coming from Brahman. The Katha Upanishad has described the Omkar in a lot of detail and contains this description. Sarva Veda ya udam mama mapnoti amam amananti. That which all the Vedas render over and over again is Om. Amananti means over and over again. Such is the Omkar. The Katha Upanishad describes the Omkar further. Tapas vansi svani yachad varanti. The truth for which people do penances. Yadachanto brahmacharyan chanti. Om is that for which people follow the code of brahmachari. The word that was used in the Gita is also used in the Katha Upanishad. Yamraja, the god of death, is preaching to Nachiketa that he will tell him about the word Om. He says, Om iti etat yeva aksharam brahma, etat yeva aksharam param, etat yeva aksharam gnatva yo yadichasi tasya tat. If one just understands properly the meaning of the word Om and experiences Om as the imperishable Brahman, then he gets whatever he wishes. If one just understands properly the meaning of the word Om and experiences Om as the imperishable Brahman, then he gets whatever he wishes. That is why I said that one must have the right for the Omkar. This is because after reaching that state, then whatever the person wishes for will happen. That is why you need to have a control over your wishes. It so happened that once the person was travelling out and eventually got tired, and he thought that if the sun was setting, then he should continue walking in the morning, so he sat down to rest underneath a tree. It so turned out that the tree he was sitting on was a kalparuksh, which is a wish-fulfilling tree. The meaning of kalparuksh is that while sitting underneath it, whatever wishes for will come true. He sat down, a nice breeze was blowing, and it felt nice. The person got thirsty and thought that it would be nice if he got some water. He was sitting underneath the kalparuksh, the wish-fulfilling tree, and therefore as soon as he wished for water, water came in nice silver glasses. He wondered what the water must have come from, but he was thirsty, and he therefore drank the water in one go as soon as he got it. The water was as sweet as nectar. He drank the water, then he thought that he was hungry, then it would be nice if he got some food. As soon as he wished for food, and because he was sitting underneath the kalparuksh, wish-fulfilling tree, a main meal, sweets and savouries came in a nice plate. He finished eating and thought he was very tired, and it would be nice if he would get some sleep on a comfortable bed with nice pillows and blankets. As soon as he wished for this in his imagination, then a comfortable bed came with nice pillows and blankets. This poor person was extremely tired and had filled his stomach with food, and so he fell asleep. After sleeping for 1 or 2 hours, he got up. He had a habit of drinking water after he would get up, therefore he thought it would be nice if he would get some nice tea. Immediately a nice cup of tea came that was strong, sweet, and with masala, spices. After drinking the tea, he thought about what was happening, and thought that everything he was wishing for was coming true. He asked for water, he got water. He asked for food, and he got food. He wished for comfortable bed with pillows and blankets, and he got these. And then when he woke up, he wished for some tea, and he got a nice cup of tea. He thought about whether there were ghosts and spirits there. As soon as there were ghosts and spirits came, then the ghosts and spirits began banging drums and started dancing. He thought that in reality this was ghosts and spirits. He thought they were going to kill him, and with this wish he immediately died. When the state comes, when all a person's wishes are being fulfilled, the person should have control over which wishes he's going to make. When our Rishi said that these people need to have qualifications for the Omkar, and some people started complaining that everything was being monopolized. These people who complain have no brains. They monopolized it for your own good. Create that qualification for yourself, that whatever wish arises in your mind, then it will not matter, so that you will not create suicidal wish in your mind. If we look at it from one way, then all of our wishes are suicidal. What are our wishes? After a person makes a wish on the Omkar, then he thinks that if he gets a beautiful wife, if this happens and that happens, he will get it. It's not as he won't get it, he will get it very nicely, but this is like selling diamonds and collecting pieces of glass. If a person performs penances of the Omkar and then still runs after such things in the material world, then it all goes to waste. That is why the Rishis said that one has to earn right to the Omkar, and only then can Omkar be manifest. A person should be completely nisham, without desires, and completely vitarag, one whose attraction has gone away, and only then will he become successful with the Omkar. That is this word. We should understand this about the Omkar. The Kathopanishad has given a lot of description of the Omkar. Eta dalambamam shestam, eta dalambamam param. The Omkar is the highest support. The Omkar is the greatest support. The Omkar is the highest support. The Omkar is the greatest support. One who performs penances of the Supreme Soul, that is the Omkar, gets Trivid Tat, 3 forms of protection. If we go to the bottom line, after discussing all of this and doing all of this, how can we remember the Om during our last moments? It's a very natural question. We are doing so much on the Omkar, but how can we remember the Omkar in one moment? I'll show you the method. Shri Krishna says in this verse that one should remember him at all times. During every moment one should perform jap, repetition of the divine name of Om, that is the Supreme Soul. Great saints say that while breathing, one should remember Soham or Aham Saha. While breathing, one should remember Soham or Aham Saha. Both Soham and Aham Saha are one. It's a fun of the Sanskrit language that even if you spell a word forward or backwards, then its meaning will not change. Aham Saha is the same as Soham. While breathing, if a human being keeps remembering just this Soham, which has the Omkar in it, because Sa has the A, O has the U, and then after Hu there is the which is the M. Or Aham Saha, this also has the Omkar in it, because A has the A, Ha has the U, and Sa has the M. The whole Om comes in both of these. If you meet great saints of a very high level, then you can actually hear this. Guruji has met such great saints. If you have a relation with great saints of such a high level, then you can hear this with each and every one of their breaths, and each and every one of the words. Soham, Soham. You can hear the jap, the divine repetition of a divine name of the Omkar. We should form a habit of this. If we are in pain or suddenly something hurts, then we should immediately say, what we do is say, Oh Ma. This is fine, because one has love for mother, and therefore you remember his mother, but this is his habit. Just like that, if one forms a habit of soham, then whenever his last moment comes, then soham, soham, or ahamsa, ahamsa, I splendor, I am the Supreme Brahman, will come out of his mouth. A constant remembering of this can be created with the activity of auto-suggestion. Shri Krishna says, Mam Anusmaran, remembering me. One can attain the Supreme Word because of the grace of the Supreme Soul, and this is indisputable. Only by remembering the Lord can one attain the Supreme Word. Even the Yoga Sutras say, Samadhi Siddhi Ishvar Paridat. The grace of God is necessary to achieve success in attaining oneness with God. No matter how many efforts we make to go ahead on the path of yoga, in the end the grace of God and the boon of God is necessary in order to succeed on this path. We should remember God. Remembering God is a skill. If a person remembers God for just one moment, when the moment will not be the same as it was before. It always changes if the remembrance is right. When a person falls in love, then he changes. You can look at it behaviorally. When a boy or girl, whoever it is, turns 16, 17, 18 or 19, and let us say they're falling in love, then it may make them fall over, but it happens. The boy or the girl changes. The mother or the father find out that something has happened, they feel it. If a person does not remain the same after falling in love with an ordinary person in the body, then can a person who remains engrossed in the love of the Supreme Soul remain in the same way that he was before? It certainly changes. And how can one remember truly? True remembrance of the Lord is not with the intellect, but it should happen with the heart. This is because the intellect is argumentative. The intellect does bargaining. It says, what will we get from remembering? And we will remember if we get this much. One should remember with the heart. And the heart never has expectations. The heart does not ask for anything. That which asks is intellect. If I were to say it in another meaning, then there is a palace. Let us say there's a palace of the world. The inner chamber of this house is the heart. This is the king's own chamber. This is the heart. The intellect is a guard. What we do is that we make efforts to ask this guard what's going on in the inner chamber. What will the security guard know about what is going on in the inner chamber? The guard is needed to select who can go inside and whether the right people are going inside. The intellect is needed to decide whether what enters in your life is right or not. The intellect is necessary for this, but God cannot help in finding out what is going on in the inner chamber. This only happens through the queen's wish, or the king's wish. One should live life through the heart if they wish to remember truly. The intellect is necessary and one needs a guard. There is no denying this, but it is a guard. You should decide your goal through the heart. I repeat this. You should decide your goal through the heart. You should decide that I wish to remember God, I wish to perform bhakti devotion, and I wish to perform worship. Decide these with your heart. Then leave the methodology and the means using it to the intellect. The intellect will give this to you. Decide your goal with the heart and leave the methodology and the means to the intellect. When we begin bhakti devotion, we give a lot of emphasis on the intellect, and that is why our bhakti devotion does not succeed. If a person performs bhakti devotion with the intellect, then this will not work. This is not the intellect's function. The intellect is like a scissors. A person says that he's been turning prayer beads for a week, but nothing has happened. This is an argument of the intellect. Will the heart ever tell this person that he has gone out every night for a week? No. Even after going out every day for a week, the heart does this person to go out again tomorrow. This is the heart. Therefore, the intellect asks and the heart gives. And God says the heart is necessary for true surrender, which is Mam Anusmaran. If the queen decides that roses are needed to decorate the inner chamber, then the queen will tell the guard to go and bring roses. And the guard will certainly go and bring the roses, no matter where he brought them from, be it from the market, the garden, or anywhere else. He will certainly go and bring the roses. In the same way, when the heart decides that I wish to attain the Supreme Soul, then he gives this task to the guard in the form of intellect and says, go and bring this. Find the way. Only then is the intellect of use. What we do is that we ask the intellect what we want. How could the guard know what is needed to decorate the inner chamber? He does not even know what the inner chamber is like. You should ask your heart. Then you should hand over the task to your intellect. When we remember with the hearts, then God says that Ya prayati vajandham soyati paramam gatim. Giving up his body, he goes to the highest goal. He attains to the paramam gatim, the highest goal. What is the paramam gatim, highest goal? Ramanujacharya says that there is two things. Becoming separated from prakriti, nature, becoming like the Supreme Soul. So it is four things, sorry. Becoming separated from prakriti, number one, nature. Number two, becoming like the Supreme Soul. Number three, becoming separated from the circle of life and death. And number four, prakriti vyuktam Matsamana kalam apanara vrittim atmanam prapnati iti arthaha. Recognizing oneself. So, it is fulfilling, becoming separated from Prakriti, nature, becoming like the Supreme Soul, becoming separated from the circle of life and death, and recognizing oneself. Life begins with Prakriti nature and Purush consciousness meet. So one who becomes separated with Prakriti nature is a Param Purush, the Supreme Consciousness and a pure consciousness. Let us pray to God that, Lord, let everything that we have read be applied in our lives, and let this improve our last moments. Lord, we pray that our last moments improve, and that we become worthy of your blessings, and it should improve tasmat sarveshu aleshu at all times, because it's only when each and every moment of our lives improves that our last moments will improve. If each and every moment of our lives is not improved, then how will our last moments improve? Therefore, the moment of turning the key on the last padlock on this house, that is the body, is chanting Om. The word Vyaram is used in relation to Om, and the words Mam Asmaran, remembering me, is also used in relation to God. The Sanskrit language is worth understanding. God should be remembered and Om should be chanted. This is because Om is the Supreme Soul. Therefore, the meaning of the word Vyaran is chant. By remembering the Supreme Soul and chanting Om, seeker giving up his body goes to the highest goal. End of verse. So that's covered